go. Here we go. We're back. We're back with more joyful. That means you're full of joy. That means you got a lot of it. And that goes to number 9, is we're going to start incorporating these ideas with you. New wine. Third heaven. 37. You're in Zion, the high place. And that high place is based upon your devotion to pleasing Father. And that's how you're going to get there. That's how you're going to stay there. You know, you're going to get the choo-choo train going, and you're going to win this war, which is 24. You're going to win this war, and it's going to be resolved, and you're going to come out smelling like a rose, and you're going to get into oida in the Greek, O-I-D-A. I think that's how it's pronounced. Carlos Irthate, my Greek friends, if I say that wrong, I apologize. But it means to really know the Lord in a good, full, sound relationship. Okay? And that's where all of this is headed, right? Now let's get back to developing that 17, which is a Sharpie, so that you can be a sharp-edged intellectual. Okay? Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to take off. We have. Let me see. I'm going to. Let's go to 8. Now remember, 1 through 7 is pretty easy. You should know that by now. Or if you don't want to, if you don't know these numbers, it's not a big deal. I'm going to just mention numbers and then teach. Okay. I think it can help you out. You know, we have the introduction. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we have 8 now, which is tastes great. 8 is the gift to Ephesus. Ephesus means a good friend, a reliable friend, a good husband or spouse or wife, a person that behaves well and they're nice to be around. That's kind of what Ephesus means, but more specifically, it means a good church. Okay? Now, a good group of people that the Lord's very happy with their behavior. See, that's the key. And that tree has like 12 different fruits on it, and it sounds very exciting. And I'm going to refer back to number 8 a lot. When we're going through our Bible, we're going to use beauty as a big part of this ministry. In other words, if I'm teaching and I leave the tree that you're going to eat from alone, I don't think I'm a very good Bible teacher. The reason why is because you're going to eat that tree for eternity. You're going to eat from that tree for eternity. So should you leave the tree alone or talking? I think that you should talk about the tree a lot. I'm not going to talk about the tree every 5 seconds. That's not my point. My point is, as this ministry unfolds, we're not going to do as what I just saw on TV by some very wonderful Bible teachers, where they're focusing and they're really stuck on the beast and how brutal the beast is going to be and how mean he is or something, and they just stay on that forever, and I think that's wrong. I don't want to say it's wrong. I just think that a better way of teaching would be to touch on the beast and the abominations of the beast and let it go and then come back to it. Don't park there. We're going to park on the tree a lot here. We're going to park on the stone that you're going to be given in heaven. The Lord's going to give you a stone. It's your permanent stone. See, we're going to get into things that are permanent and beautiful here. And I do have some negativity, you might say, we say here in America. I have some negative lessons planned where I'm going to have to get into the beast and Daniel's 69th, 70th week transition or something, and the beginning of the tribulation and all that. I've already given quite a few lessons on that on my previous channel. I'm going to put some more here, and I'll put most of them on my channel for adults, which I call Jeremiah 2022 Sin. That's where I put, a lot of sin things, heretics. What's a heretic like? You know, and all of that. Okay? But for now, we're going to continually refer back to third heaven, which is 27. There is a place called third heaven, or there's a place called Father's throne, and we talk about that, and we also talk about it scientifically. And thanks to Brother Jim, my friend who was from Greece, Carlos Erthate, my Greek brother, agape to my brother Jim, and as his last name just popped out of my head. But Jim is a wonderful young fellow K through 12 teacher in Los Angeles, where we used to have classrooms across from each other every now and then, and it was kind of funny. I'd look over and there was Jim over there teaching, you know. And Jim's kind of a stoic character, but just a very nice Christian brother. And we had a wonderful time there. Now, as far as beauty goes, and taste great, and referring to these more positive things, that's what we're going to do for the rest of the duration of this ministry. Now, number 24 is war, conflict, and resolution. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that too much. Paul talks about a war that goes on between a Christian who's growing in God's grace, and they're learning how to become righteous people, and there's a war going on between what they used to know how to do that's wrong, and what the law is telling them that they need to do, which is good, not do wrong and all that. And he talks about the war going on. You know, oh, I messed up today, and I shouldn't have messed up, and I'm mad at myself, and you know, Paul goes into that in Romans, right? Well, we're not going to get into that too much. I'm not going to talk about that too much. Now, that's obviously for adults and not for basically children and teenagers. Some of my viewers are younger Americans and younger people who know how to speak English. And we're not going to get into too much of Paul's war, you know, between the spirit and the flesh. God, you know, they used to have cartoons, they probably still do, where you're walking along the street and there's a bad angel and a good angel, and the bad angel's telling you to go do what you want to do, go over there and do the wrong thing, and the good angel's saying, no, don't do it. And that's what Paul is talking about in the book of Romans, in a more sophisticated way. I'm not going to get into it right now. And that's 24 here on our list. We will talk about war here. We'll talk about the war that every Christian has to win in terms of them allowing the wrong thing to enter into their lives and to dominate them. That's the war. It's a war of domination, essentially. Now, that's 24, which I'm not going to spend that much time on. Now, let's get to 8, which is taste great. The tree is going to probably taste great. And once again, I will refer back to this over and over again now as this ministry develops, because we should, because that's what you're going to be eating for eternity. The reason why I'm going to spend so much time, I have 2 particular segments. I'm going to maybe 5 videos for you on the gems and the wall of Jerusalem. That's probably going to be 18, 19, I haven't decided yet. Or 20 or something like that. I will refer to whatever, I will refer to the wall over and over again, because it's what you're going to see forever. It's time for the Christian church to start getting into a lot of good things they're going to experience. You know, they had the Puritans here not too far from here in Pennsylvania area. I forgot where they were. But they had the Puritans who believed that every day we just talk about being pure, and you better be pure, or that's your canister, you know. And what they were doing was they were going too far into purity. That's the point. Well, the third word for this year is purity. We emphasize purity here big time, but we don't overemphasize purity. Because people are not going to be perfect, and they need to understand that if they come to church, there's a very good chance that the church that they belong to and the pastor and whoever there is in charge of them, they're going to forgive them, and everything's going to be nice. But a church that teaches too much purity, they're not going to do that to you. And also it gets complicated because you might do something that takes you over the top where you need to be arrested. You know, it gets deep, doesn't it? It sure does. That's a deep well, correction and reproof, and, you know, and admonishing and reproach and rebuke. Right? How do we handle all of that? Well, you got to take your time. You got to learn what the words mean. Right? That's 32, right? No, that's not 32. I have a number for that we're going to get into, and that is how to correct people. I have some lessons on that. But let's get back to the lesson germane here, which is we're going to look at 9 now. No, we greet you in the only name given amongst men, because I'm really motivated. I'm forgetting my introduction here because we're really motivated here. We really want to get this done, and we want to get into into something else. I'm kind of chomping at the bit like a quarter horse, getting ready to run the 350-yard race here. Now, number 9 is you're going to get a crown, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be gems of, refined, a crown fine. That's what I call 9. And that sounds awfully cool, and you need to think about that. I just put a bunch of crowns on my videos to show the Christian brethren that this is your crown. Your crown is you're going to enjoy beauty forever. It's yours. That's called the crown of life, and that, of course, goes to Smyrna, now, which is your second church. Now, they're going to get a crown of life because they embraced and allowed death to come to them without seeking to escape their persecution. They could have said, no, I don't believe in Jesus Christ, and I don't love him, he's not my king, and they probably could have escaped persecution from Nero, for example. Okay, so they would have escaped their persecution, and they would have saved their life. However, you would have lost your life by doing that, because you have an opportunity to stand up for the Lord, and you need a testimony where you stand up for Jesus. Now, you may have problems standing up. Almost every Christian's had problems standing up. I know I have. We have problems standing up for the right thing periodically, and fortunately there's mercy for us. Same thing Peter did. He had a wonderful opportunity to stand up for the boss. He already said he was going to stand up for the Lord in John 13. And when the opportunity came, only a few hours later, he went and hid and said, I don't know, leave me alone. As we say in America, he turned into a scaredy cat. That's what happened to it. And it happens to the best of us, where you have an opportunity to turn away from sin and you didn't do it. And so you feel sorry about what you've done, and you have compunction, and you repent, and you get back on the road again. Like that famous song by Mr. Nelson, On the Road Again. And so you're right back on the narrow path again. Such as the prodigal son and Peter had to do. You got to turn your game plan around. The word repent is used not only for your initiation into Christianity, but the word is also used for turning your problems around. in your Christian walk. Okay? Now, that's 9, which is a crown fine. 10 is hidden manna. You're going to keep eating that manna over and over again, obviously. It's heavenly food. It's called hidden manna. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness, and they died. Why did the Israelites die? You have a wonderful example of that in Hebrews with Paul. The reason why they died is because they didn't maintain their relationship with the Lord. They didn't do it. They shrunk. They went back into the world of behaviors that God doesn't want them to do, such as idolizing creations and so forth. Adulteries and hedonisms and who knows what. That's why they died. They ate, what they did was they ate a charismatic experience of grace. They ate an opportunity, which means they engaged and they were right in the middle of initiating eternal life. They were thrust into a wonderful opportunity to be saved. That's the bottom line. But the parents of the children did not enter into the promised land because they shrunk back to wanting to be Egyptians and to Babylon's behavior. Our lovable master said, "He who eats this bread will never die." So he's contrasting the bread that the Israelites ate. For some of you, we can use it as a context. He's contrasting the bread that the Israelites ate, who were the 12 original tribes of Israel, who were being established as 12 tribes. And that's the first time we have a gem for each tribe, which goes back to our lesson on gemstones, colors and beauty, and so on. Each tribe had a gem that represented them on the breastplate of Aaron, Mr. Priest. Now, this becomes very significant because we're contrasting what you want to do with your life. That's what the master is saying. Do you want to commit yourself to Bible study and serving in the church? That's the essence of everything. The one who does that is the one who eats the living bread. Now, the reason why the children of Israel died, the older generation, was because they complained and they got back into the world and they got into their flesh and pride, and they didn't want to be servants and they didn't want to humble themselves in the sight of the Lord. The Lord tried them and they failed in their trial. They did not own a good testimony. They were not good witnesses. So that's what happened. Their behavior or fruits were bad. And what does God do with trees that don't bear forth fruit? He chucks them. People who don't love people, who are not kind, and who don't want to embrace the truth, God will chuck them. You can't participate in the church and participate in the world. You're going to have to get, what we say in America, get your act together, and you're going to have to get it together ASAP, as soon as possible. So the contrast is the manna they ate, which came down from heaven, and the manna that he is that comes down from heaven, which is manna which is you're going to have to hear the word of God, and you're going to have to be a doer of the word of God. The children of Israel heard Moses talk, but they were not doers of the word. Because God humiliated them. That's what God told Moses. I humiliated you, that you may know that man shall not live by Egyptian, Gentile, I'm going to just enjoy my life, verbiage alone. If the only verbiage you have is take care of me, you're going to die. When your verbiage is, I'm going to take up my cross and follow Jesus and enter into difficulties for the pleasure of my master, that's a winner, that's an overcomer, and that's someone who has successfully eaten enough living bread. It's very simple. I've had fourth graders who can gobble this up. Not very difficult, and we repeat a lot of the same thing over and over again because we need to do it. The master does it over and over again in his red letters, and so does Paul and everybody else who is writing on this subject, which is living bread and doing what you're supposed to do as someone who is called, as God told Joshua, have I not commanded you? And Joshua said, as for me and my house, we will serve. Moses is called the servant of God. Putting on a servant mind is living bread. The children of Israel would not put on a servant mind. They wanted to be privileged, like some of the people I see on TV. I'm not going to mention their names, but the point is that there are a lot of people who say that the church is a place, or the temple is a place of privilege. Okay? Now let's go to 11 here. 11 is the white stone of heaven. It's the stone you get when you go to heaven, and it has your name on it, but it's a new name, and nobody else knows what that new name is except for you and the master. That's all. So what the master is going to do is he's going to make this life in heaven very personal between you and him. Christianity is not, I'm number 205, my security, what's my security, social security number, 563, that's not heaven at all. That's the world. But when you talk to people on, when I call Social Security or one of these businesses, what they call bureaucracy or bureaus, they talk to you as a number. Now, since they don't know you, they're not supposed to get chummy with you. However, you might be in the mood for someone to be friendly towards you. Well, they're not the people that are going to do it, are they? They're not going to satisfy the friendship needs of Adam's children. Heaven is a place where there's constant friendship and care all the time. You're never a number. And number 11, in beauty, 7.11 here, brings that point home. Let's go to 12. Many of you are going to have a position under the Lord as an under-shepherd servant. You never leave servant status. However, you might have a position whereby you are an under-shepherd. That's number 12. That's 12. It's a perfect number for it too, because leadership is intelligence. Leadership is light. That's why 12 on my playlist here is light. It's high noon, 12 o'clock. When the most love and the most truth are coming to you. You have a direct plumb line between you and Father at 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock represents a direct connection to light and to truth and to love. That's what 12 represents. And it also represents leadership. Okay? So you might be an under shepherd in heaven. But you never leave You never leave servant status, in spite of the fact that you have some sort of leadership role. Okay? I wanted to go to one of those scriptures that hammers the point home for you. Let's go to let's go to Luke 17 and look at a couple of references to this point, which is 12. Because what we have is we have a very complex situation here at times when you're having Bible studies such as servant-child dynamics. In other words, am I just a servant, or am I also a child that has some privileges, since he is my father? And how do you organize that? I'm going to organize that for you. That's my job. We're going to look at 2 points pertaining to you always being a servant. Then we might look at some scriptures pertaining to you enjoying being an under-shepherd or having some sort of position as a servant. Okay? Let's go to Luke 17. Let's go to verse 9. Doth he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? One of the biggest scriptures in your Bible I just gave you. It's a monster. Because it's talking about a compliant Christian who is doing everything basically the master told him to do. Which is the criteria for the fourth individual in the parable of the sower. There are 4 people who engage Christianity and walk through the church, and one of them is a winner. And the master is just redefining the winner again. Because you did what was commanded of you. You think the word command is Mickey Mouse. Let me tell you something. I talk to a lot of Bible teachers throughout my life. And what I find is that a lot of them are very confused. And it's unfortunate because they read John chapter 1 and so forth where John says we're under grace. And so they think that commandments don't mean anything anymore. And that's called you're flunking the 4th grade of Bible study. The reason why is because you should have a 4th to 12th grade understanding of the concept of servant child. You should know that you are a servant forever, and there's no change in that status. Simply because I just pointed out to you that you're going to be an under shepherd or some sort of leader in heaven and have some sort of position of leadership, it doesn't mean that you stop serving. That's the point. And that you lose your servant mindset. That's my point. Now, a lot of people don't get this. As a matter of fact, I would say 70% of Americans I talk to don't get what I just told you. Now, the Wesleyans around the corner here do. The Mennonite church I just drove by yesterday, they understand what I just told you. That's about 30% of Americans understand what I just told you. That the servant dynamic, child dynamic, it can get a little tricky, but you're going to have to concentrate and you got to pay attention. And if you graduated the 12th grade in high school in the United States of America, you should understand what I'm talking about right now. Now, what's interesting, I'll talk to people about when I'm talking to you about right now, this idea, and they have a problem. They go, oh, I don't know what you mean by that, and oh, I'm confused. Well, listen, I'm not making fun of them. What I'm saying is that one of the reasons why they don't understand it is because they don't want to understand it. They want to insert privilege on the servant dynamic. That's what they want to do. And they'll go to child scriptures and they'll try to push that servant idea down. You know, oh, when Jesus said in chapter 17 of Luke, I trow not, I don't agree with that. They'll tell you right in your face. This is extremely important because what we're dealing with is success. The master just said, you did everything I told you to do. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to please every little thing that Daddy wants us to do. That's what we're here for. Okay, we may not fulfill that all the time, but that's our goal here. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what the master just said, which is extremely significant. I haven't read this scripture in a while, but here's the key to what we're talking about right now is in verse 9 at the end, he says, I trow not. Now let's translate it into American verbiage. I don't think so. The master just said, I don't think so. Does he thank that servant? And the context is promotion. There's a group of people called the Mormons. They say that you are promoted to not only being above a human being, but you're also going to be a god. Which contradicts what we just read. Who's right, the master or the person around the corner in a building? I think I'm going to go with the boss. You can go with who you want to. I would go along with Mr. I don't know how to lie here, Mr. Our lovable Jesus Christ. Okay? That's what I would do. And that's what we call Protestantism. 30% of the people in the United States, maybe 20%, they understand what I just told you. I just drove by a Mennonite church. The Wesleyan University around the corner here, a couple blocks away, they teach what I just told you. But 70% of Americans to 80%, they don't teach or know what I just told you. Because they're not what we call true Protestants. That's the point. Okay, it's just that difficult. Let's go to Revelation 21, and I'm going to stop here. Let's see. No, we don't have time. I want to shut down here. We'll get to that later. I'm going to continue with this later on. No, let's just continue. You know what? I have something to do, but I'm going to have to stop because we're too set up here. This is too beautiful right now. It's too situated right now. Everything is too nice. I'm going to have to continue. Okay, I'll be right back. Maranatha.